Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Keep some German books on the back.
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody. Will it be translated into French?
Okay, I can try.
Who will do it? Yourself or Joe? Somebody? Who else?
You want that I translate in
French.
Well, you can ask the question first of all. Who would need French translation?
Qui aurait besoin d'une traduction en français?
Who understands English?
Qui comprend l'anglais?
If you can understand my English, un peu.
I think so.
Not all.
And then it's nice.
I got to translate.
Yeah, to that lady. Yeah, it would be nice.
Understand English?
A little bit.
French?
French, very, very good.
Good. I don't know. It's up to you.
Je vais les traduire.
1 o'clock? 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Is that too early?
People turn the curtain or listening the class.
We'll all be asleep. Well, maybe we may have more who need French translation. Maybe more, I don't know.
Maybe later more
Maybe
people
more
will
will
come that
come.
will need to.
Others will come who will need French translation.
No,
Non, est-ce qu'il y aura
Others,
quelqu'un qui...
others
After.
may come. Some more guests.
After, maybe I think there are Kunti with Maxime who have to come, and that's all. Maybe I don't remember. Sorry.
I don't know, whatever you decide. We need, either one translates, I speak slowly, or I speak and then they translate into French. Whichever.
I see one.
I can try at least.
So you want to sit here and translate him, so that those who are French speaking can also, and then we can relax a little bit.
Speak.
You speak English, you speak French.
Yeah, but you stop or...
Yeah,
How we do?
I'll stop.
Okay.
It'll be hard at the same time.
You get familiar.
Haribo. So, welcome everybody,
Bienvenue tout le monde.
and we would just like to give a little introduction.
Nous aimerions faire une introduction.
My name is Janananda Das Goswami,
Donc, son nom est Janananda Goswami.
and maybe I'm made in England.
Il est fabriqué en Angleterre.
And you can tell me where you were made as we go around. And your name is
Dayanitai Das.
made in
Donc, mon nom est Dayanitai Das et je suis fabriqué en France.
made in France.
João Vidigal, Portugal. Portugal.
Portugal.
Donc, on fait le tour de pièces pour chacun dise son nom et de où il est fabriqué.
Indrano Jadas, fabriqué en Russie.
Made where?
Russia.
Made in Russia. Well, Russia with love. From Russia with love. It was James Bond, wasn't it?
My name is Igor, and I was born in Moldova.
Moldova.
Son nom est Igor et il a été fabriqué en
Moldavie.
Moldova. It was part of USSR, but now it's an independent country. It was like Ukraine, Moldova, they were different parts of USSR.
C'est Moldavie en France.
Moldavie. Ok.
Mon nom est Damien et je suis fabriqué en France.
Ah, okay.
My name is Damien and I'm made in France.
You're at home.
My name is Angelika. I'm born in Berlin, Germany.
Germany.
Je suis née en Allemagne, à Berlin, et mon nom est Angelika.
Joseph, France.
My name is Robert and I was made in Macedonia.
Macedonia. Jai.
My name is Nita Charandas, and my dad is made in Croatia.
Croatia, right, not too far from Macedonia. There used to be one Yugoslavia.
Exactly.
When I was there in 1969 in Yugoslavia. And
Satyabama from Mauritius.
Mauritius, Haribo. And coming from the back. Come.
Me, Mazigul, and I was born in Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan, Haribo. I went through Kazakhstan one time on the train. I was going from, where was I going? Omsk to Kurgan. And the train went across the border.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't get down. Hare Krishna. We're introducing each other, where we're from, what our name.
I'm Lilia. I'm from Russia. I live in Germany.
Living in Germany. Your name is Lilia?
Lilia.
Lilia. We live in Kale. Kale?
Okay.
No. In Karlsruhe.
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 How far? That's anyway, somewhere in Germany.
100 kilometers.
100 kilometers, long way out. I saw it. And we have here
My name is Jivananda Das. I'm from Slovakia.
Slovak.
My name is Namacharya Das and I'm from Lithuania.
So many from
Almost every different.
Eastern European. Wow. Wonderful. Amazing. Hare Krishna. We're all gathered here in Strasbourg.
Nous rassemblons tous ici à Strasbourg.
And this Strasbourg is it some kind of European center?
Strasbourg est une sorte de centre européen. C'est une question que Maharaj demande.
Yes, Maharaj.
What is European center for what?
For nothing. It's just theoretical, but practical it's not.
Well, it's a very architecturally beautiful city, I can say that, from what I've seen.
C'est une très belle architecture et trop belle.
Okay, so this evening, we thank you for coming, but we're going to start with a little bit of chanting, mantra chanting.
Cet après-midi, on vous remercie d'être venus et on va commencer avec un petit peu de chant de mantra.
We welcome you all to join us.
On vous remercie.
As in English, we sometimes say, the proof, I don't know if you can understand this, this is a little pun. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Aha! Anyone who's expert can translate that into French, because Danitai may not have heard it before.
La preuve du pudding,
Pudding.
c'est un cas de, it's a cake, this is pudding.
Yeah, gâteau.
So,
Proof of the gâteau.
on peut apprécier le gâteau que quand on le mange.
Same. We try something, and this wonderful thing about this mantra is anyone, if they want, anyone can chant this mantra. It's not exclusive, it's totally inclusive. Anyone can, it's up to you.
Tout le monde peut chanter ce mantra, ce n'est pas exclusif, c'est juste, ça dépend de vous.
Doesn't matter where we're from or what we are.
Peu importe d'où venons, qu'est-ce que nous sommes.
Hare Krishna, welcome. Haribo. Where are you ladies come from?
I live here
In Strasbourg.
in Strasbourg, yes.
Wonderful.
And I in Bolivia, South America.
Oh, Libya. This is
Sulema.
Yeah, Nicholas.
Nico.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Hare Krishna. Oh, we have someone from South America, another continent.
Nous souvent des gens même de l'Amérique du Sud qui arrivent.
And it's very simple. Some of you, maybe first time joining us, there's a card there with his mantra on the card. I don't know what else is on the
I
card.
have a few more of those.
What's on the card? Does it tell
The
me the
Mahamantra.
mantras? Just nothing else, just Mahamantra.
Peut-être c'est la première fois que vous vous joignez à un chant de mantra comme ça, mais on a des cartes pour que tout le monde puisse chanter.
We
Il
first,
suffit
Est-ce
juste
quelqu'un a
dessus.
Quelqu'un a besoin encore? Somebody needs a card with the mantra?
this it's not a new mantra, it's eternal. It's actually eternal, but it was introduced, what we call the Western world, in the 60s, basically.
Ce n'est pas un nouveau mantra, c'est un mantra éternel, mais ça a été introduit en Occident dans les années 60, 1960.
Where's that little book on from? Just right behind you. You could be closer if you try. You're touching it with your hand, except for. Our spiritual master, his name is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He brought this chanting to the Western world in 1965.
Il est notre maître spirituel, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, et il l'a amené dans les pays occidentaux ce mantra.
He was from India, and he came at the age of 70 to America.
Il venait d'Inde et il est venu à l'âge de 70 ans en Amérique.
And he was just living wherever people gave him to live in New York for 1 or 2 years, chanting Hare Krishna.
Et il a fait toutes les personnes qui se joignaient à lui chanter Hare Krishna.
He would go into the parks and just sit alone chanting practically with a few people coming around chanting with him.
Il allait dans un parc et il s'asseyait tout seul et chantait, et puis après les gens se sont joints à lui et ont chanté avec lui.
And from that simple beginning, the Hare Krishna movement started to grow in the Western world.
C'était un début très simple et puis après ça a beaucoup augmenté.
And in 1969, the chanting of Hare Krishna became quite well known throughout the world.
Et en 1969, le chant Hare Krishna est devenu très connu dans le monde entier.
Maybe Joseph, I don't know, many of you may not know that time. Satyabhama was in Mauritius in 1969.
Me? Yes, I was.
So you may remember the Hare Krishna mantra,
Yes.
the Beatles.
Yeah, yes.
Did you ever hear the song by the Beatles? They were singing Hare Krishna. About now, there was a record which was made.
Les Beatles chantaient Hare Krishna et il y a même un enregistrement qui a été fait où ils chantent ce mantra-là.
And it was
qui est
all
très
over
connu.
the world, you know, everywhere. Even in Russia, it was very popular, though it wasn't legal, but people.
C'était tout autour du monde, même en Russie, c'était illégal, mais on continuait à chanter Hare
I think
Krishna.
about 1987 or something in the Moscow TASS newspaper, famous newspaper in Russia.
En 77, dans un journal très connu en Russie.
The big writing on the newspaper, the biggest threat to communism, rock music and Hare Krishna.
Donc, il y avait un gros titre
I don't know
en
where
disant
the threat comes
que la pire chose contre le gouvernement, le communisme, était la musique de rock et le mouvement Hare Krishna.
It helps people to think. They start to think a little bit outside of what we call the box, you know. They're kind of like
Les gens commencent à sortir un peu de leur boîte et de leur conditionnement.
people tend to think according to their upbringing, and sometimes they start to question it.
Donc, les gens ont tendance à penser toujours dans leur conditionnement et leur boîte, mais des fois ils sortent de ce conditionnement et commencent à penser à autre chose.
Some of you may be aware that in the 1960s there was the Vietnam War, and there was a lot of young people becoming very, very, they didn't want to know, they wanted peace, peace.
En 1960, il y avait la guerre du Vietnam et beaucoup de jeunes et de personnes ont commencé à penser comment trouver la paix dans ce monde.
And there was this movement called the hippie movement. You heard of the hippies?
Il y a ce mouvement des hippies.
And it became very popular, and they became very interested in spirituality, looking in other ways, finding out what the truth of life is.
C'est devenu très populaire. C'est devenu très populaire et les gens commençaient à chercher à comprendre d'où ils venaient et quelles étaient les origines spirituelles.
And the music, the literature, the music, the poetry, the dress, everything was like changing all of a sudden.
La musique, la littérature, les habits, tout commençait à changer et à être révolutionnaire.
People have generally been very conservative. You do the same things, you go to the same place, wear the same things, like very conservative.
On est habitué à être conservatif, le même endroit, les mêmes habits, les mêmes pensées.
This kind of, what do we call, age of Aquarius, this new age, people were looking for some change in society.
Dans ce nouvel âge, les gens commencent à chercher pour un certain changement dans la société.
And in the middle of this, our spiritual teacher arrived in New York, and he started to give this chanting of Hare Krishna, and share it with everyone.
Au milieu de tout ça, notre spiritual master est arrivé, notre maître spirituel est arrivé et a commencé à donner ce mantra Hare Krishna.
And then some of his followers met the Beatles, and they also were interested in chanting Hare Krishna.
Certains de ses disciples ont rencontré les Beatles et ils ont commencé aussi à chanter Hare Krishna.
And together they made some records, In those days, those round things, records, still have them sometimes.
Et donc ils ont commencé à faire ensemble des enregistrements sur les disques vinyles, les gros disques.
And all over the world, this chanting went, practically everywhere. Television, radio, everywhere.
Tout autour du monde, ce chant a commencé à être répandu et à la radio, à la télévision.
I used to watch, in 1970 it came out. In 1970 I used to watch football matches.
En 70, j'avais l'habitude de regarder les matchs de foot à la télé.
Yeah, sometimes. And they would sing, they would play in the interval, that's the half time, they would have a break for 10 minutes, and they would play the most popular records.
Pendant la pause, ils jouaient l'enregistrement le plus populaire.
And then, several times, we'd be there in the stadium, they'd be this, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He would be playing during the football interval.
Donc pendant la pause, ils chantaient des fois donc ce mantra avec Krishna.
A very simple tune, and it was very catchy. People liked it.
C'est une mélodie très simple qui permettait de se rappeler très facilement de ce mantra.
So if you'd like to join in with us now, we're going to do a little mantra. This is called a mantra. Mantra means that which helps to, mana means mind, and tra means basically control our minds.
Donc si vous voulez vous joindre, on va faire maintenant un chant de mantra. Et mantra veut dire en fait, man veut dire mental et tra veut dire contrôler. Donc un moyen de contrôler le mental.
But it's not just a matter of controlling our minds.
Ce n'est pas simplement le but de contrôler le mental.
Or freeing our mind from anxiety.
Ou de nous libérer des anxiétés.
It helps us to realize our spiritual identity.
Ça nous aide à réaliser notre identité spirituelle.
And to realize we have a spiritual nature.
Et de réaliser qu'on a une nature spirituelle.
We have a spiritual relationship.
Et nous avons des relations spirituelles.
And when we have some spiritual knowledge,
nous avons une connaissance spirituelle.
where can there be any problem?
Donc, où c'est qu'il peut y avoir
All
des
problems can be
problèmes?
solved.
Tous les problèmes seront résolus.
But by material methods, we cannot solve problems very much.
Les méthodes matérielles ne vont pas résoudre tous ces problèmes.
We have different ideas,
Nous avons
different
toutes différentes
perceptions.
idées, perceptions,
different solutions.
des solutions différentes.
Madanga has arrived. Where from Madanga has come?
From Kiel.
From Kale?
Yeah.
Oh. Who is bringing? You bring. You bring.
Amritavanya.
Oh, thank you. Dankeschön. Do they speak like across the bridge? This side everyone speaks French, and across the bridge everyone speaks German? Is it like that?
Yes.
Isn't that amazing? Just 100 meters. Or 100 meters. Different language, different law, different government. Yeah?
D'un côté, donc, entre Kiel et Strasbourg, d'un côté tout le monde parle français, et puis de l'autre côté tout le monde parle allemand. C'est ça.
Sometimes it's just across the road sometimes, a different country.
Il suffit juste de traverser la frontière, et puis c'est...
But in the heart, we're the same. The same. The body is different. The label is different. The language is different. But something in the heart is the same.
Dans le cœur, nous sommes tous égaux, nous sommes tous les mêmes spirituellement.
By chanting Hare Krishna, we can start to realize this.
Mais en chantant Hare Krishna, on peut commencer à réaliser ça.
Not just theory, but in reality.
Pas juste en théorie, mais en réalité.
Let's chant. The system is I'll chant once, and you try to hear the chanting, hearing. In the spiritual path, the process of hearing is very, very effective.
Donc il va chanter, vous essayez d'écouter et après vous répétez. Dans la vie spirituelle, l'écoute est très 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 importante.
Even materially speaking, if we want to learn something, we generally have to hear.
Même matériellement, si on va apprendre quelque chose, il nous faut écouter.
And there's more chance we'll understand it.
Alors il y a plus de chances de comprendre.
Have you heard me? Krishna says to his devotee Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, have you heard me?
Krishna dit à Arjuna dans la Bhagavad Gita, m'as-tu entendu?
Are all your doubts now cleared up?
Et maintenant tous tes doutes ont été supprimés.
So, very simple. Just if you wish to join us, please chant with us after I sing, and then we all sing together. Again I sing, then you sing. Hearing and chanting.
Donc joignez-nous si vous voulez chanter, écoutez et chantez.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna. So, our hosts, what would you like us to do? Program time. You have to give us, you know, you have your guests here, they have their lives to live here in Strasbourg and beyond. What is your time limit? We have to feed everybody spiritually, and also the stomach has to be fed.
It's depend of
It depends on, not me, I'm flexible, but others may have to do things with it. Oh,
I have no idea.
no. What time do you suggest? It's now 8:10, 7:10. Oh, it's quite early still. 10 minutes past 7, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still, I guess it's early. Would you like us to talk a little bit about Krishna consciousness?
And mere
What would you like me to talk about?
so it depends of me, it depends of guests, what they want us to know.
About what would they like to know?
About Krishna consciousness, what the guests want to ask or know.
They can certainly ask questions also. If anyone has any questions, they can certainly ask. So just, pardon?
Ok, donc on va essayer d'établir quel va être le programme pour ce soir. Et donc, là, je dis qu'il est flexible, il peut s'adapter, mais en fait, ça dépend de qu'est-ce que les invités, donc qu'est-ce que vous voulez savoir à propos de la conscience de Krishna. Donc, il dit que vous pouvez poser des questions et qu'il peut essayer de répondre à ces questions-là.
It's my first ever time in
And maybe we can serve the sadhana by 8 p.m.
8 p.m. Then we can have
Yeah.
some, you can serve. We call it prashadam. Prashadam is not known to most people in the world, is it? Prashadam.
Donc, à 8h, nous honorons le prashadam.
Prashadam.
Et le mot prashadam, c'est quelque chose qui n'est pas très connu pour le commun.
It literally means mercy. Mercy.
Prashadam, littéralement, veut dire la miséricorde.
So everything in one sense we could see as mercy. That's a fact.
Tout, finalement, peut être vu comme la miséricorde.
We call the food mercy because of prasadam, because we offer our lives as well, but we offer the food in love to Krishna.
Donc la nourriture est appelée prashadam parce que nous l'offrons avec amour à Krishna.
And then one can also experience the wonderful effects of having the opportunity to receive some of this food, this prasadam, vegetarian food offered to Krishna.
Vous pouvez faire aussi l'expérience de recevoir cette nourriture vraiment extraordinaire.
I think Satyabhama, you've been cooking? Did you cook? She cooked?
Satyabhama a cuisiné.
Alone or with the help of others? How is it, alone? Maybe. Of course we all have help from others, there's no doubt. No one's really alone. If she cooked the nice, please do show your reciprocation. Please also join us for this lit at 8 o'clock for this wonderful meal.
Il demande que vous vous joigniez à nous pour honorer aussi le prashadam à 8h.
So in the meantime, we'll talk a little bit, but if you have any questions, please ask.
Nous parlons un petit peu avant le prashadam, donc si vous avez des questions, allez-y.
This is my first time in this lifetime in Strasbourg.
C'est la première fois dans cette vie que qui vient à
we've been traveling around a little bit, not much this year of course, but usually we travel to different countries.
Habituellement, il voyage beaucoup à travers les différents pays et pas trop cette année.
Trying to share a little understanding of the nature of the soul, the nature of the self.
Pour essayer de partager la nature de l'être et la nature
The special,
de l'âme.
you could say the special opportunity of this human form of life.
Cette vie humaine est une très grande opportunité pour comprendre cela.
Where we have a little bit of intelligence to be able to make some, you could say, some rational decisions in life.
Nous avons un peu d'intelligence pour faire des choix dans cette vie.
And most of us use our rational intelligence to try to adjust the world around us or to try to enjoy the world around us.
Et nous utilisons la plupart de nous ce choix pour essayer d'ajuster le monde autour de nous et arranger le monde autour de nous.
Nature of everyone, not only humans, the nature of everyone is we're searching for some form of happiness.
La nature de tous les êtres, et pas seulement pour les hommes, c'est de chercher le bonheur.
There are different ways we may find happiness, but the principle is that we're looking to satisfy our senses, to satisfy our minds, and so on.
Il y a plusieurs moyens de trouver le bonheur et la plupart du temps nous essayons de trouver en satisfaisant nos sens.
That may be extended to satisfying our family, our country, our race, our religion, or whatever it may be.
Ça peut s'étendre à la famille ou au pays ou quoi que ce soit.
So the natural desire to be happy is a natural desire to want to be happy.
Le désir d'être heureux est naturel.
It's not natural to be, for instance, diseased.
Par exemple, ce n'est pas naturel d'être malade.
The English word is dis-at-ease. It actually means we're not comfortable. Disease means uncomfortable.
En anglais, en fait, la traduction littéraire de disease veut dire ce qui est inconfortable.
I don't think we like to
Pas
suffer.
confortable.
Most people don't like to feel suffering.
La plupart des gens n'aiment pas avoir des souffrances,
Anxiety.
l'anxiété.
I'm sure everyone's experienced anxiety, stress. Now many people are expressing stress, anxiety, in this, especially this year, more than usual probably.
La plupart des gens expérimentent du stress, de l'anxiété et encore plus cette année.
Most people, they don't like to be restricted or caged in, you know.
La plupart des gens n'aiment pas être restreints ou engagés.
We want to be free, freedom. Everyone's looking for freedom.
Tout le monde veut être libre et recherche pour la liberté.
We see many times in Paris, I've spent a lot of time in Paris, many times people marching through the streets wanting some kind of pay rise or freedom or something like that.
La plupart des gens recherchent la liberté ou la paix et marchent pour cela à Paris.
You have to please take a little something before you go.
I have an emergency, sorry.
You have to leave us.
Yeah, I'm
Have
sorry.
another appointment.
I forgot something.
Oh, must take something to eat with you, please.
Just a little.
Please, some takeaway, something, take it with you. Do you have some of our books? We can give you something to take.
No,
French, English?
no, it's okay.
French or English?
French, but it's okay.
I'll give you something. I'll give you a gift. I'm giving you a French book. Thank you very much, and please take some food. Is there some little takeaway or something?
Yeah, she's telling us.
Natural, the soul is looking for freedom when we're more or less cased up in this material mind and body.
L'âme recherche toujours pour la liberté. Nous sommes toujours conditionnés dans ce corps et ce mental.
Demands of the body for eating and sleeping and various other factors. We get tired, we get hot, we get cold. So
Le corps demande pour manger, pour dormir, des fois chaud, des fois froid.
this body is actually like a vehicle which we're traveling in.
Le corps est en fait comme un véhicule dans lequel nous voyageons.
In the human life, we have a little choice which way we go.
Et dans la vie humaine, nous avons un petit choix de quelle direction nous allons.
Not just the physical body, but the subtle one made of mind and intellect.
Pas que le corps matériel, mais aussi le corps subtil avec l'intelligence et le mental.
And for most of us, we think this is me. This body and mind, this is me.
La plupart d'entre nous, nous pensons ce corps et ce mental, c'est nous-mêmes.
And you ask then, practically anyone on the street or wherever, who are you?
La plupart des gens, si on demande dans la rue ou peu importe, partout,
What answer will
qui
we get?
êtes-vous? Et
What
pour
will
la
they say?
plupart des gens, la réponse est qu'est-ce que ça va être?
What will people say? Who are you? What will they say? Question.
I'm João, something like that.
Oh, Joel. I'm Joel, and whatever different names, Indonesia, whatever names we have. Most people will say, I'm French, I'm a doctor, or I'm a teacher, or whatever it may be.
La plupart des gens vont répondre je suis français, je suis professeur,
I'm 70 years old, age, I'm 70.
j'ai 70 ans,
Man!
je suis un homme.
Yes. We're connected to that, for sure. We are definitely connected to the mind and body and the various activities therein.
C'est sûr que nous sommes connectés à tout ça, au corps et au mental.
But there's generally a difference between the possessor and the possessed, between the seer and the seen.
Il y a en général une différence entre celui qui possède et les possessions.
Between the knower and the known.
Entre celui qui voit et ce qui est vu.
Between that which we're experiencing and the person who's experiencing.
Entre ce qui est les expériences que l'on a de la vie et ce qui est expérimenté.
We're very busy identifying with that which we know, or that which we feel, or that which we see, so on like that. But understanding of who is the me or the we that is experiencing it is very limited.
En fait, ce à quoi on s'identifier est très limité. On s'identifie à ce que l'on voit ou ce que l'on sent, mais pas ce que l'on est.
So the Krishna conscious movement, basically, one of the basic premises of this movement is to understand a little bit more about who are we, who am I.
Les bases de ce mouvement, c'est de comprendre qui nous sommes.
And theoretically, we have Bhagavad Gita in English, we don't do.
Et dans la théorie, nous avons ce livre dans
French,
Bhagavad Gita.
English, maybe other languages, I don't know. This is a well-used English version, I think it is. Grant, you just got it today, a new one?
From an old friend who was a monk for a few years.
He was a monk?
Yeah.
He gave us a Christian monk. Christian monk? Yeah, Christian monks are also reading Bhagavad Gita because it's knowledge. It's not a religious doctrine, it's knowledge.
Ce livre n'est pas une doctrine religieuse, mais un livre de connaissances.
Which applies to anyone who's interested in, spiritual life.
C'est intéressant pour tout le monde qui s'intéresse dans la vie spirituelle.
And it gives us, if we want to progress spiritually, directions, it helps us to wake up to, say, the spiritual aspect of life.
Donc ça nous aide à nous éveiller à l'aspect spirituel de la vie.
And directions how we can begin to understand it, realize.
Et des orientations pour comprendre comment nous pouvons comprendre cela et réaliser cela.
Like every subject matter, practically speaking, you have let's take a simple one like cooking. Very simple subject, cooking.
Par exemple, il y a différents sujets comme cuisiner.
You have a recipe.
Il y a une recette.
You can ask Satyabhama. She has. I'm sure you have many recipes.
Vous demandez à Satyabhama pour les recettes.
I bet we all know that just the recipe alone is not enough. Huh?
Et nous savons bien que la recette toute seule, ce n'est pas
You
assez.
maybe to sell a book with recipes in. Then they buy a book with
Vous
recipes.
vendez des livres de recettes, mais
You invite someone around for lunch in your house. You say, please come for lunch in my house tonight.
vous pouvez inviter quelqu'un pour le
Here.
repas.
Take the book, recipe book,
Et puis vous lui donnez le
Lunch.
livre de recettes.
cuisine. Yeah, you see. But then, if you just give a person a recipe book and you've invited him for lunch, they're not going to be very satisfied. Huh?
Yeah, s'ils achètent juste le livre de recettes, ils vont pas être vraiment satisfaits de
You
la
expect to
réception.
put it into practice, you know.
C'est pas qu'il faut juste offrir le livre, mais il faut mettre en pratique ce qui est marqué dans le livre.
Knowledge is necessary,
Donc
but
la
it's
connaissance est
not much
nécessaire,
value unless it's properly utilized.
mais ce n'est pas très, ça n'a pas beaucoup de valeur si ce n'est pas utilisé comme il faut.
Even materially. There's ancient scriptures or literatures in India called the Vedas.
Même
We have one
matériellement,
book here called
il
Vedas.
y a des textes anciens de l'Inde qui s'appellent les Védas.
I think Robert, you've got one. Okay.
Yes, you got it.
So this is called. I haven't got very good eyesight. Veda,
Donc ce livre s'appelle Veda.
and Veda means knowledge. It's an ancient Sanskrit word which means knowledge.
Veda veut dire en sanskrit, donc connaissance.
And the literatures which nobody can really put a time to are called the Vedas.
Et donc les livres étaient mis en accord avec les
You go
Védas.
back. Nobody can take. Time immemorial, practically, this knowledge has been passed down.
Et cette connaissance a des origines qui sont incalculables tellement c'est ancien.
And there are many branches of those scriptures, hundreds and thousands of branches. I'll give you one little example in that.
Il y a beaucoup de branches dans cette connaissance, des milliers et des milliers.
One time I was in London, and many times I've lived there for a long time. I was in London one time,
Par exemple, une fois, il était à Londres,
and I was in a place called Piccadilly Circus. Have you ever heard of Piccadilly Circus?
et une fois, il était dans un endroit qui s'appelle Piccadilly.
Maybe like a famous square in Strasbourg, I don't know. Strasbourg, but famous square in London, Piccadilly Circus.
C'est un endroit très connu en Inde,
It's very ironic.
en Angleterre.
Piccadilly Circus used to be the center of what we call the red light district.
C'était le centre
You know
de
what?
ce que l'on
I told
appelait
you what that was, yes.
la lumière.
I don't know if they have such thing in Strasbourg. In many cities they do. It's like nightlife where, people go out for, different things. You get the idea.
C'est un endroit où les gens allaient pour...
And right in the middle of Piccadilly Circus there's a statue. Do you know who the statue is?
Et au milieu de cette place, il y a une statue. Est-ce que vous savez de qui
Yeah,
est
the
cette
statue.
statue?
Amor.
Pardon?
Amor.
Who?
Amor.
Amor?
Yeah.
In French, maybe.
Gandhi.
Eros. The Greek god of love, huh? Eros.
Eros.
Right in the middle there.
C'est la statue donc, du dieu de l'amour.
Another name for that is Kama, which means lust.
Un nom est Kama.
Right in the middle of the, amazing, right in the middle.
Juste au milieu de cet endroit,
Anyway,
c'est la
that's
statue.
slightly related, but more related was I was distributing Bhagavad Gita. This is back in 1970, probably 72 or 3.
Maharaj
It
a
would have been
distribué des Bhagavad Gita en 1972.
And this man came up. He must have been, I don't know how old he was, probably about 40 or 50-year-old man came to me. A 40 or 50-year-old man. Not 40 or 50 man.
Une fois, un homme de 40 ou 50 ans est venu vers lui.
And he was, what do you call them in France? We call them tramps in England. In America they call them bums. It's a kind of hard term in America.
Homeless.
Hobos, homeless
Right.
people.
Homeless
They live on the street, they drink wine.
SDF qui vivait dans la rue et buvait du vin.
This fellow kind of came up to me, and Which is, they often do. They usually say, give us a dime, give us a dollar, give us a euro, give us a quid, whatever it is. They usually ask you for money.
Donc il est venu vers lui et il asked.
No, he didn't. I said they usually do. This one didn't.
Ils ont l'habitude de demander de l'argent, mais cette fois il n'a pas
This one
demandé.
came out and said, what have you got there? What have you got?
Il me demande qu'est-ce que vous avez là.
But he spoke good English, very good English, American English.
Il parlait un très bon anglais avec l'accent
I said,
américain.
Bhagavad Gita. He said, can I look at it, please?
Donc il lui a répondu, c'est la Bhagavad Gita.
Hey, yeah, he was-
Est-ce que je peux regarder?
Yes, in the Bhagavad Gita, he started looking at it. He said, I know this book. I know this book. He said,
Il a dit, je connais ce livre.
and I said, how do you know the book? He said, well, I'm from America. You could tell from his accent. But he said, I'm from America. When I was younger, I came across this book.
Il a dit, je suis de l'Amérique et quand j'étais jeune, j'ai étudié ce
He
livre.
said, I was a student of nuclear physics.
J'étais un étudiant de la physique nucléaire.
He was very educated in nuclear physics. He just gave it all up.
C'était quelqu'un de très cultivé et de très
This
qualifié.
enchanted with the whole scene. It just thought
Il a tout abandonné dans
the
sa
whole
vie.
world. And he said, I said, exactly how you came across it. He said, I was a student way back in the 30s or 40s, he said, in America, a student of nuclear physics.
Un étudiant dans les années 40.
And he said, in the 30s or 40s, 1930s or 40s or something. He was a student at that time.
Il était étudiant à ce moment-là.
And he said his teacher was Oppenheimer.
Et son enseignant était avec un mental très
And you
ouvert.
may have heard of Oppenheimer. He was accredited, at least, credited to the first atom bomb.
Il était le créateur de la première bombe
And he said he was one of his students.
atomique.
And he said Oppenheimer, he said, used to read Vedic literature. Oppenheimer's a big professor from Americans. He was the one who said, they say he discovered the atom bomb.
Donc c'était quelqu'un qui avait découvert la première bombe atomique.
And he said he studied for many, many, many years the ancient language called Sanskrit.
Il avait étudié pour beaucoup d'années l'ancienne écriture qui s'appelle le
And he
sanskrit.
studied these Vedic literatures.
Il avait étudié donc cette littérature
And there are
védique.
various parts of the Vedas which deal, Yajurveda and different parts of the Vedas and the Bhavishya Purana, different Puranas that deal with various kinds of warfare and different kinds of physical, how to create things out of the physical elements.
Il y a beaucoup de parties de ces littératures védiques qui parlent à propos de comment créer des choses et comment manipuler.
And the whole science is there of the structure of the atom
Et
and
toute
how
la,
to split the
la
atom.
science atomique est dans ces écritures védiques.
This way, he said, he came in contact with this knowledge.
Et c'est comme ça qu'il est rentré en contact avec cette connaissance.
It's a misuse of that knowledge.
Et ça a été une mauvaise utilisation de cette connaissance.
Everything can be used for good or bad purposes.
Tout ne peut être utilisé pour le bien ou le mal.
So it's how we use knowledge which is the most important thing.
Le plus important, c'est comment on utilise la connaissance.
So this is the Krishna consciousness. We're trying to understand how to use the knowledge of this world to help people.
La conscience de Krishna, c'est un moment qui nous aide à comprendre comment utiliser la connaissance et d'aider les gens.
To achieve their real goals in life.
Atteindre le vrai but de la vie.
Happiness, love, peace.
Bonheur, paix.
And this chanting, particularly the chanting of Hare Krishna, particularly helps us to clarify our consciousness, so we start to see things a little bit more.
Et ce chant, Krishna aide à nettoyer notre conscience pour voir les choses comme elles sont.
sound vibration is, you all know, is very powerful.
La vibration sonore est très puissante.
It affects our consciousness very much.
Ça affecte notre conscience très profondément.
Whether it's classical music or rock music or whatever.
La musique classique ou le rock, ou peu importe quel son, ça va affecter notre
You
conscience.
hear most of our knowledge in life comes through hearing.
La plupart de nos connaissances viennent par l'écoute.
So the sound of this of a mantra has this effect of cleansing our consciousness so that our, let's say, our perception of things around us gradually become purified.
Donc l'écoute de ce mantra nettoie notre conscience et purifie ce que l'on voit, notre perception du monde autour de nous.
And not so much based upon whatever our conditioning is. Every one of us is conditioned differently, let's say.
Ce n'est pas tellement dépendant de notre conditionnement, le conditionnement que l'on a.
We tend to judge others, we tend to judge situations according to our conditioning.
On a tendance à juger les autres, juger ce qui est autour de nous en fonction de notre conditionnement.
A person with a different conditioning may see the same thing very differently.
Une personne avec un conditionnement différent voit la même chose de manière très
So
différente.
we get this duality,
On a toujours cette dualité.
and that many times evolves in such things as arguments, clashes, confusion, and distress.
Cela se termine souvent avec des arguments, des conflits et des disputes.
We identify with the condition of our body and our mind and our little world around us.
Nous identifions avec notre mental, notre corps et le monde autour de nous.
We forget our identity, our actual identity of soul.
Nous oublions notre identité réelle, identité qui est l'âme.
So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself is speaking the Bhagavad Gita to help us to first of all think about it, maybe wake us to the idea that maybe we're more than this body and mind. There's more to life than meets the eye.
La Bhagavad Gita, donc c'est Krishna qui nous enseigne comment accéder à cette réalisation de ça, peut-être plus que ce que nous voyons ou ce que nous pensons.
You may well know that there's a well-known fact that when the first atom bomb went off in the desert in America, Oppenheimer quoted the Bhagavad Gita, "Time I am, destroyer of the worlds."
La première fois où la bombe atomique a explosé dans le désert d'Amérique,
And I
le
think it
verset qui a été cité venait de la Bhagavad Gita,
shook him
où
up.
il est dit « Je suis le temps, le détruiseur de
You can see how
destruction de
misuse of knowledge can be so destructive.
Donc la mauvaise utilisation de la connaissance peut être tellement dangereuse.
Unfortunately, most people are, in one sense, misusing their opportunity of human life.
Et la plupart des gens n'utilisent pas correctement les opportunités de cette vie humaine.
And practically all of our educational institutes are aimed only at material knowledge.
Et la plupart de nos instituts le but est de développer de la connaissance matérielle.
We need material knowledge also,
Nous avons aussi besoin de connaissances matérielles.
but on its own, it is not enough.
Et tout seul, ce n'est pas assez.
It cannot solve the problems which we are trying to solve.
Ça ne peut pas résoudre les problèmes que nous cherchons à résoudre.
Whether it's not being happy, or whether it's suffering a disease, or whether it's old age, or death, or whatever it may be.
Donc ces problèmes,
Wars.
c'est le fait d'être malade, d'être vieux, de mourir, tous ces problèmes-là.
Because we're starting with a wrong formula.
Parce que nous commençons avec une mauvaise formule.
If we say 1 and 1 equals 3, everything else after that is incorrect.
Comme si on part avec 1 plus 1, ça fait 3. Tout ce qui va suivre va être faux.
So this basic principle of just thinking, I am this body, this is me. This is a basic, you could say, ignorance, which we're basing all of our life upon.
Donc comme penser je suis ce corps, c'est les bases de toute l'ignorance qui influence notre vie.
An identity crisis, you could say.
C'est une crise identitaire.
But it's a pretty good idea to think about it. try to, let's say, look a little bit more into who we actually are.
C'est une bonne idée de commencer à réfléchir, mais qui nous
Why
sommes?
am I here?
Pourquoi je suis là?
Where do I go when I leave this body?
Où je vais quand je vais quitter ce
Why am
corps?
I suffering?
Pourquoi je souffre?
Why is somebody born in a situation in one part of the world? They may be very poverty stricken. Another person born in another place may be very rich.
Pourquoi quelqu'un peut être né dans un endroit où c'est très pauvre et puis un autre qui peut être né dans un endroit où c'est très riche, où il y a beaucoup de richesse?
Someone is born in Africa, someone in France, someone in India, someone in Russia. Why?
Quelqu'un en France, quelqu'un en Afrique, quelqu'un en Russie.
What have I done to deserve it? Or why have I been born here?
Pourquoi
Why not there?
je reçois tout ça?
Why
Pourquoi
was
je
I,
suis pas né à notre nom?
why was I born in a family of whatever, some religion and
Pourquoi je suis
religion
né dans une
condemning us?
famille,
Why?
telle religion, telle...
It's a big topic of reincarnation,
C'est un grand sujet à propos de la réincarnation,
the eternal nature of the soul.
la nature éternelle de l'âme.
And naturally, if we are eternal souls and we identify ourselves with a temporary body, we have a problem.
Naturellement, si nous sommes éternels et que nous identifions avec le corps qui est temporaire, il y a un problème.
We say before we start we have a problem, but because we're identifying with something temporary and we're eternal.
Avant de commencer, il y a déjà un problème parce que nous sommes éternels, nous nous identifions avec un corps temporaire.
We all know the stress, the lamentation, the anxiety that can come about when we lose something.
Nous savons bien que le stress, se lamenter, tout ça vient lorsque nous perdons quelque chose.
Where's your mobile phone gone? Oh no, you've lost it.
My, give me back my phone.
No, mine.
No, it's mine.
Mine. And even if you don't know who's taken it, what anxiety you get just from a little mobile phone.
On peut voir quelle anxiété ça peut procurer de se faire voler son téléphone.
And ladies, if the ladies look in the mirror and you see your hair's falling out, how do you feel?
Et si une dame voit dans le miroir tous ses cheveux qui tombent, comment elle se sent?
How would you feel? You see your hair, no hair left. You wake up in the morning because
Plus aucun
these
cheveu.
you don't care. But for most of you say, where's my hair gone? You wake up, your nose is gone.
Vous voyez que le nez est tombé.
Yeah, we're very attached. Naturally, we're attached. We've got to be attached to something. So, man, people go crazy over the loss of a mobile, huh?
Les gens deviennent fous en perdant leur
Oh,
portable.
what wonderful news I have today. I've lost my mobile phone. I lost my wallet. I lost my car. I lost my job. I lost my way.
Aujourd'hui, j'ai perdu
What a
mon téléphone.
wonderful day.
J'ai perdu mon travail, j'ai perdu mon porte-monnaie. Quel magnifique jour.
Most people would not say it's a wonderful day. We're
La
attached.
plupart des gens ne
The
diront
nature
pas
of the
ça.
soul is the soul is attached. The body is just a vehicle. We're just using it to fulfill this thing and this thing. We're looking for something.
Nous ne sommes pas ça. Nous sommes l'âme qui est attachée à ce corps et nous utilisons ce corps pour satisfaire le désir.
Spending much of our life looking for, boyfriends, girlfriends, money, jobs, mobiles.
Nous passons la plupart de notre vie à chercher pour un copain, un mari, une femme ou un travail, un portable. Et nous perdons la plupart du temps à chercher pour ça.
Searching for something. And still we're not satisfied.
Nous cherchons pour tout ça et nous ne sommes toujours pas satisfaits.
No matter how much we've got, there's still something missing. The missing link.
Nous pouvons obtenir beaucoup comme ça, mais il manquera toujours quelque chose.
Ultimately,
Ce lien
sorry.
manquant.
Ultimately, we're looking for unending love.
Ultimement, nous cherchons pour un amour illimité.
From the Vedic literatures, from all scriptures really, they guide us, how we can give us advice, how we can cultivate, how we can fulfill that natural desire for unending
Et
love.
donc, les écritures védiques nous répondent à comment nous pouvons satisfaire ce désir pour un amour illimité.
But if we repose and put our love only in temporary things, we're going to be frustrated.
Et si nous mettons notre amour pour des choses toujours temporaires, alors nous serons toujours
Be
frustrés.
it in our own body, the bodies of others, items of this world, countries, wherever we put our love, the object is only temporary.
Notre corps, le corps de quelqu'un d'autre, des objets, mais tout ça, c'est
It doesn't
toujours
last so
temporaire.
long.
Ça ne reste pas si longtemps que ça.
The guidance there is the ultimate object of our love is to repose our love. It's with a relationship, a loving relationship with the Supreme Being, the Supreme Origin, the personality behind everything.
Notre relation doit se tourner vers l'être suprême. Et on doit tourner notre amour vers cette relation avec l'être suprême.
It's not just about pious dogmas, it's about actually developing a relationship with that personality.
Ce n'est pas une question de piété, mais c'est comment développer une relation avec cette personnalité suprême.
And then the hankering or the desire of the self can be more and more fulfilled.
Et donc, le fait de rechercher cet amour sera de plus en plus satisfait.
And knowing that every one of us has the same spiritual quality.
Et tout autour dans cette salle, tout le monde a la même qualité spirituelle.
Krishna himself explains in Bhagavad Gita, Mam Shino Nabhichana, Mam Evanksa Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, that we are all part and parcel, we're all the same spiritual qualities, we're part and parcel of the Supreme Lord Himself.
Et Krishna explique dans la Bhagavad Gita que nous sommes tous une partie et parcelle de Krishna, de nature spirituelle.
Although we all have our own unique individuality, as every part of our body has its unique individuality.
Nous avons chacun notre individualité.
Every single living entity has its unique individuality. It's amazing.
Chaque être vivant a son individualité personnelle.
And when we connect our individuality with the supreme individual, the supreme person, known by the name Krishna,
Quand nous relions cette individualité avec l'individualité suprême, alors
Krishna.
donc ce nom s'appelle Krishna, on l'appelle Krishna.
Krishna means most attractive, all attractive.
Krishna veut dire le plus attirant.
We're all looking for something to attract us, something we like, something beautiful.
Nous cherchons tous pour être attirés pour quelque chose de magnifique.
Krishna means the most beautiful, the most attractive person.
Krishna est le plus attirant et la plus belle personne.
And that is the process of this Krishna conscious movement, to cultivate this relationship.
C'est le processus de la conscience de Krishna de développer cette relation.
It automatically brings respect and compassion, love, whatever it may be, for all other living entities.
Et en même temps d'amener du respect, de l'amour pour tous les êtres vivants.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Where's my mobile? That's not what you do. Don't open that. Just that's dust. You can have it all. It's just dust in there. It's just dust from Vrindavan. you thought somebody gave me the shoe and I put this in. More valuable than a million mobiles. You know, 1 grain of dust. All right, I'll let you have it back. I don't know how to use it anyway. Hare Krishna. If anyone like to ask me.
Question.
Thank you very much for inviting me and for chanting. It's very wonderful. Je voudrais savoir si moi je ne suis pas exactement initiée tout ça. Est-ce que moi j'ai la possibilité d'être, comment est-ce que, pas de votre une matagie chez moi.
You get it?
Only if I want to choose for don't stay a devotee in my family, in my house. Is possible?
Only one.
The question is, if I'm not even if I'm not initiated, is it still possible that I'm a devotee at home?
Of course. Anyone can be a devotee. Yes, they want. We're all devotees. Some know it, some don't want to know, some don't answer it. Every living entity, even an ant.
La question c'est est-ce qu'il est possible d'être un dévot de Krishna si on n'est pas initié? Et Maharaj a répondu bien sûr, c'est notre nature en fait d'être dévot de Krishna. Et donc tout le monde peut être dévot de Krishna même s'il n'est pas initié.
Krishna is present in your home as much as anywhere.
Krishna est présent dans votre maison plus que n'importe où.
You can, whatever way you want to, you can be a devotee if you want to call it that, anywhere.
Peu importe où vous êtes, vous pouvez vous être un dévot de
It's not
Krishna.
just, I don't think it's a monopoly, it's a state of consciousness. It's not a monopoly, it's not like, we are devotees and you're not devotees, it's not like that.
C'est une question de conscience, c'est pas une question
You'll
d'endroit
find
ou de...
devotees in all walks of life in the world.
On trouve des dévots partout.
They may not go by the same name or the same dress or the same habits exactly, but there's devotion in everybody.
Peut-être que ce ne sera pas le même nom qu'on mettra dessus, ce ne sera pas les mêmes habits, mais ce sont tous les dévots.
It's a matter of how we direct our devotional natures. We like to serve, we like to love, we like to give. It's just a matter of which direction we give it.
Ça dépend de quelle direction nous mettons pour aimer, servir et agir.
We're trying to encourage people to, channel or direct some of those natural devotional tendencies in the direction which would be most beneficial, most satisfying.
Nous essayons de donner des informations comment orienter notre amour et nos actions pour que ce soit le plus bénéfique possible.
If you want to find out some details on that, you can ask any of the regulars here in Strasbourg or wherever you're living. No problem.
Just give a comment according to this. Today I met one lady. She was a Muslim and she was saying usually Muslims don't want to hear anything about our books and about Krishna consciousness, but she was so aware about the Lord in the heart of everyone, and she was very happy to hear what I was saying.
Yeah.
And usually I don't stop people Muslim because I'm afraid that they don't want to hear anything.
Yeah, sometimes people are
So
closed.
it's not the close and
Some people are closed, some people are not. You close the door, you can't get in. The windows are closed, the sun's not going to enter in. Yeah? Some people's windows are open and they're willing to share.
I have a question. Today when I met a lady on the street, we were speaking about doctrine and belief, and you said that this Bhagavad Gita is not a doctrine, it's a book of knowledge. But when I was presenting this book to her, she compared it to any religious book, any scriptures, and for her this is a doctrine and it requires belief. So how can we help people to understand the factual, scientific side of Bhagavad Gita, beyond doctrine, belief, especially belief?
Joao explique qu'il a rencontré une dame aujourd'hui dans la rue qui lui a demandé si c'était, il disait que c'était un livre de doctrine et de croyance. Et Joao demande à Maharaj comment on peut expliquer aux gens que ce livre n'est pas qu'une question de doctrine et de croyance, mais un livre de connaissance.
Every single living entity is on different stages of evolvement.
Chaque être vivant a un certain degré d'avancement.
This question indirectly is answered by Krishna himself. Call it a doctrine or not, but it is answered by Krishna.
Krishna répond directement à cette question.
That for persons on certain levels of involvement, simply pious activities are recommended.
Pour certaines personnes qui sont à un certain degré
Doing
d'avancement,
some
la
good
piété
for
c'est
others,
suffisant.
helping an old lady across the road, giving charity, opening a school or hospital. These things are also recommended at a certain stage.
Faire le bien autour de nous, donner de la charité, aider des gens autour de nous, ça c'est recommandé à un certain niveau d'avancement.
Because for a certain person whose belief system is so strongly rooted on the material platform, it is not possible to understand, let's say, or to have faith, if you want to call it that, in something beyond their experience, beyond their concept of life.
Pour certains qui sont très enracinés dans le concept matériel de la vie, c'est très difficile de comprendre quelque chose de au-dessus de cette vie matérielle.
Activities are recommended. Most of the religions today, mostly what we call religions today, are based upon this principle of gradually behaving in this world that we're living in a pious way.
La plupart des religions dans notre monde nous guident pour agir de manière la plus pieuse possible.
To obtain our material results from some, religious practices with a vague idea of a God behind the scene. But mostly it's based on getting our material needs.
Donc la plupart de ces religions, c'est pour, en fait, le but va être d'obtenir ce que l'on a besoin.
So that's another stage, you could say. It's a stage of, give a Sanskrit word, but it's a stage where you could say material religiosity.
C'est un niveau de religion matérielle.
Amongst such persons, you will find some people who are serious about going beyond just the material results that come from one's belief.
Donc pour certaines personnes, ils cherchent à arriver au-dessus de
They may
ces
not
croyances
have-
matérielles.
Their faith may not be so strong, and if they don't get what they want, they usually give it up.
Et si, donc pour les gens qui ont des croyances matérielles, en fait, s'ils n'obtiennent pas ce qu'ils désirent, alors ils abandonnent et ils perdent la foi.
It's like trying to give education to a person at different stages of their educational growth. You teach accordingly.
C'est comme dans l'éducation, on éduque en fonction du niveau d'avancement des
So
personnes.
how do we get, for instance, how do we develop beyond simply faith to, let's say, realization? How could you say? Total acceptance due to realization. How do we get to that stage?
Comment on passe de la
What is the
foi à la
process?
réalisation?
In the material world, let's take the material world. What is the process?
Quel est le processus pour passer de ce niveau de foi à un niveau de réalisation?
What is the process of finding out, simple example, whether the food is nice or not?
Comment,
What do you do?
quel est le processus pour savoir si la nourriture est bonne ou
It
pas?
says it's nice, in here it must be nice.
Il est dit dans ce livre que cette nourriture est bonne, ça doit être vraiment bon.
He said it was nice, it must be nice, I like him.
Il a dit que c'était bon, donc ça doit être vraiment bon.
What else? Maybe you paid a lot of money, so you're trying to convince yourself it's nice.
Des fois, on peut
what's the
donner
real
beaucoup
proof?
d'argent pour convaincre
What's the
que
proof?
c'est bon.
What's the proof?
Quelle est la preuve?
It goes beyond, oh, that's just your belief, I don't believe you.
Comment on peut faire pour aller au-delà de juste la croyance?
It's up to you. What's the proof? You taste it. You have to taste it.
Pour pouvoir vraiment être
You have to put
convaincu,
it
il
into
faut
practice.
goûter, faut mettre en pratique.
Experience oneself. You can use logic. In other words,
Faut utiliser la logique.
the teachings of Bhagavad Gita are not based upon some, what you say, some time factor.
Donc les enseignements de la Bhagavad Gita ne sont pas conditionnés avec
There are things you can see
Le
happening
temps.
in front of your own eyes right now. It's not something, oh, up in the clouds, where is it? No, you can see it happening right now. Just read the Bhagavad Gita 16th chapter, you can see what's going on right now.
dans la Bhagavad Gita, vous pouvez voir dans le 16e chapitre ce qui se passe maintenant.
It's actually, what can I say? millions and millions of people are following, that's okay, they're following other things too. But it's the timeless, it's just going on. It's knowledge which applies now, in any circumstance in the world. It's not a question of a religious dogma. It's knowledge which is applicable anywhere. You just have to apply it and see.
Cette connaissance n'est pas dépendante d'un facteur de temps, elle est toujours appliquée.
Here we say, 2 and 2 equals 2, and I say, oh, no, that's American knowledge. I don't believe it.
2 plus 2, ça fait...
We have our own knowledge. 2 and 2 equals 10.
2 plus 2, ça ne fait pas 4, ça fait 10. On a notre propre connaissance.
It's been accepted, of course, as a mathematical fact. But
c'est accepté comme un fait mathématique.
In China, in Arabia, India, Africa, Russia,
Que ce soit en Arabie,
the same everywhere.
En Amérique.
Maybe different words, maybe different ways of writing it, but it's the same thing.
C'est la même
Knowledge
connaissance
which is in
partout.
Bhagavad Gita. Anything you find, of course the words are different and the examples are different, but any real knowledge that you find in any scripture of the world, you'll find the essence of that is there in the Bhagavad Gita also.
Donc la connaissance que vous pouvez trouver dans tous les textes sacrés, on retrouve cette connaissance dans le Bhagavad Gita.
The art is to find something which the person can relate to and to try to connect them at that point.
Donc, il faut que les gens puissent se connecter à cette connaissance.
A point beyond their evolvement of consciousness.
En fonction de leur évolution de la conscience, ils pourront se connecter à un certain niveau de
very rooted in the material world, it's very hard to understand spiritual concepts.
Pour les gens qui sont très enracinés dans la vie matérielle, c'est très difficile de comprendre la sagesse spirituelle.
Platform, how to bring them to the spiritual platform. A step-by-step process.
C'est un processus graduel pour s'élever à la spirituelle.
We don't believe everyone's going to die.
Nous ne croyons pas que tout le monde doit mourir.
We don't believe in suffering.
Nous ne croyons
Is
pas
it a
dans
belief?
la
Is it a
souffrance.
belief or not?
Est-ce que c'est une croyance ou c'est un fait?
We accept it because we see it. So seeing isn't all. We hear it. Hearing is also another means of realization.
Écouter. Donc, vous voyez tout ça, mais écouter, c'est un autre moyen de réalisation et ça, vous pouvez l'écouter dans la vie.
Well, you can use, it depends what aspect we're looking at, but you can use different examples and with people also to try to help them. Little things.
On peut utiliser différents exemples pour les gens et essayer de les aider à réaliser cette connaissance.
We used to use very simple, when it was with children or people who were very simple, it was just simple examples. Okay, who are you? Body.
Après, vous pouvez utiliser un exemple très simple à les enfants. Et ils demandaient qui êtes-vous? Et les enfants disaient je suis d'accord.
People won't do it. You say touch your nose,
Donc touchez votre
touch your leg, touch your shoulder,
touchez la jambe, touchez l'épaule,
touch your ear.
touchez
Now
votre
touch
oreille.
yourself.
Maintenant touchez vous-même.
What is it? Yeah, where?
Poussez.
Don't you feel consciousness in your body? Do you understand the difference between a life and a dead body?
Comprenez-vous la différence entre un être, un corps mort et un corps vivant?
Why, I mentioned earlier, why some people are suffering and some people are not. Do you understand why?
Pourquoi certains souffrent et d'autres
There's
ne
a
souffrent pas?
surface reason, but that's not going to go to the root.
Il y a quelques raisons en surface, mais
At
ça
least
ne
you
va
should
pas
look. If you don't know, you should
aux origines de...
check and see, and it's up to you. You can accept or not, you can follow or not, it's up to you.
Si vous voulez savoir, regardez dans ce livre et puis
You want
si
to
vous
write
voulez, vous
everything
pouvez
off.
suivre ou non.
Based upon our own conclusion, who the heck do we think we are? Are we so great that we know this, that, and the other? We're not saying that. We're receiving this from sources, great sources.
Sommes-nous si grands que nous n'avons pas besoin de ces
I don't believe
sources
this. Who
pour
cares what you
comprendre?
believe? What difference does it make?
Je ne crois pas. Mais c'est pas grave.
I don't believe the sun is going to rise today. Who cares what you say?
Je ne crois pas que le soleil va se lever aujourd'hui.
Come on, wake up.
Le
It
soleil-
doesn't resolve around our belief system.
se base tout sur nos croyances, mais est-ce que c'est vraiment de la valeur?
Block ourselves. People generally do. We're stuck in this conditional situation.
Nous sommes bloqués dans ces
Well,
conditions.
it's 8 o'clock and it's time for Krishna.
Vous aviez une question?
En fait, je voulais savoir qu'est-ce que ça veut dire.
She wants to know what is the meaning of this mantra.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. What does it mean? Oh, Krishna. He reveals himself to us accordingly, he says.
Ça se révèle à nous en fonction de notre
Literally, it
avancement.
it literally applies the name Krishna, as you mentioned, actually, all attractive personalities.
Traduisant littéralement, ce que ça veut dire, Krishna veut dire celui qui est, qui est très attractif.
Everybody has some attraction, and attraction for others too. The attraction isn't with all of us. To some
Tout le monde a des attirances pour tout le monde en a des attirances pour telle chose ou telle chose.
when that attractive, natural attraction or being attractive is directed towards Krishna, and that's called bhakti or devotion.
Quand nous sommes attirés pour Krishna, cela s'appelle bhakti.
And the name Rama, the word Rama, there are very three words really. The word Rama is another name or address of the qualities of Krishna, the Supreme Person.
Rama, c'est d'autres qualités de Krishna, en fait. Notre ami.
Supreme enjoyer.
Ça veut dire celui qui
Reservoir of pleasure.
Ça veut dire le réservoir de toute
We're all looking for
plaisir.
pleasure because we have similar qualities in a small portion.
Nous recherchons tous pour le plaisir parce que nous avons tous
Like a
les
spark
mêmes
of the fire.
qualités que Krishna.
When the spark of the fire enters the fire, the spark also becomes like fire.
Comme une étincelle du feu, quand elle rentre dans le feu, elle devient aussi le feu.
So the natural qualities light up when we're in contact with the source of it.
Donc nos qualités spirituelles sont illuminées quand nous rentrons en contact avec Krishna.
And Hare refers to the spiritual energy of the Lord,
Hare, c'est l'énergie spirituelle du Seigneur.
which you'll be pleased to know is personified. It's not just an energy, it's also personified.
C'est pas juste une énergie, parce que c'est aussi ça a une personnification.
A unique feature of the Absolute Truth is that the Supreme Absolute is not just a male icon.
Donc, la vérité absolue n'est pas juste un male.
It's not just a male, most people envision if there's a god, he's some kind of man or some old man or something like
Ce
that.
n'est pas juste un vieil homme.
No, he can be anything, but even though it's beautiful, he has his counterpart, male, female, his name's Radha Krishna. So Radha Krishna. So Hare is Radha, Krishna is Krishna, male, female, they're the supreme.
Dans le suprême, vu qu'il y a des relations, il y a toujours le masculin et le féminin.
She's the personification of love and devotion to Krishna.
Radha est la personnification de l'amour et de la dévotion pour Krishna.
We approach Krishna through Hare.
Donc nous approchons Krishna à travers cette personnification de l'amour et de la dévotion qui est Hare ou Radha.
Put together, the mantra means there's an address, O Lord, O internal energy of Lord Radharani, please engage me in your service.
Donc, le mantra, c'est on demande à Radharani, à Hare, de nous engager au service de Krishna.
We're very busy serving in this world, so it's a prayer, maybe please engage in your spiritual eternal service.
Dans ce monde, nous sommes tellement occupés à servir tant de choses, mais ce mantra demande qu'on rentre dans notre service éternel de Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you all very much. Merci beaucoup. Pasivo. Grazie. If anyone would like one of these, you're welcome. It's kind of a magazine, which is, what do you say, I would say a self-glorification.
C'est un magazine.
But it's
C'est
still
une
it's
personne
nice.
qui veut
It's
ce
pretty.
magazine.
It's got a bit of philosophy in it. It's got some nice philosophy. It's got a little bit of history and some nice pictures.
C'est
you're all
un
welcome.
magazine de glorification du mouvement.
We're selfless, you know, we like to glorify ourselves. But anyway, it's interesting. Anyone hasn't got one, you're welcome. If you want one. Yeah, take it free. Really beautiful full colour magazine.